So welcome to our new series on Lent, Everything in Between. The stories we're going to hear in this series hold significance in pop culture, in politics, in church history, and literally everything in between. We know these stories. Mary and Martha, Zacchaeus, the wee little man, and today's story, the Good Samaritan. They've been so commonplace in our thinking that we tend to kind of gloss over them. We don't realize the power they have to transform our thinking and living in this world. What I hope is we'll discover and infuse our lives over these next few weeks is this. What I hope we'll discover is this. Jesus' ministry was rooted in relationships that disrupted the established social, political, and religious divides of his time. And I would argue his relationship with us continues that disruption in our current time. What we tend to miss, and what Chris and I hope to draw out, is the shock factor of Jesus' words when he first said them to his audience. We tend to miss in our readings of Scripture that Jesus' teachings likely felt extreme to the people. He was constantly pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo. It's easy to miss that Jesus was intentionally highlighting the cultural and political polarities in his context, to emphasize the radical, inclusive, and surprising love of God. This is what's important for us. These stories mirror the cultural and political divide many of us experience in our families, in our communities, and in our country today. And this series is an opportunity for us to navigate the polarities in our lives with more faith, with more intention and openness. It's an opportunity to be transformed both as individuals and as a community. So each week during the series, we'll explore a pair of binaries. On Ash Wednesday, it was about intention and action. What intentions do you have for the next 6 weeks, and what actions are you going to put into place to help those intentions become a reality? Today, our binary, as we talked with the kids, is stranger and neighbor. We tend to think of binaries as opposites, don't we? However, I hope we notice the nuances and complexities. Instead of seeing things in black and white, we see everything in its full spectrum of color. Not easy answers, but rather how God is found in the in-between and how she's showing us what it means to live beyond the categories we like to create that make our lives easier, right? Easier and easier to navigate. So the first invitation is found in the way Jesus answers the lawyer's question. Let's look more closely at who is part of the story. And I encourage you to see yourself in these different characters. The lawyer, he asks a bold and testing question, probably thinking he is proving his righteousness to Jesus. Instead, he's revealing his arrogance. It's not a "you whitewashed tomb" sort of conversation for Jesus. It's a "that's interesting. Let me share a story with you" chat. Jesus shows us grace by staying in the conversation with the lawyer. And then we have the priest and the Levite, and they at first glance seem cold and uncaring in their assumed piety. We see their humanity when they cross to the other side of the road. We see their fear about traveling this really very, very dangerous route. It's easy to judge them, isn't it? Until we think about a time we were scared, maybe while driving in a rough neighborhood, and choosing safety over helping someone else. Now, our next two characters aren't discussed so much, and we don't really talk about them a lot, do we? The innkeeper is unusual. I wonder if the innkeeper knew either the injured man or the Good Samaritan, because they traveled the road a lot. What we do know is he agrees to help. He sees promise on what the Samaritan is doing and saying. And then there's that guy found laying in the ditch, very badly injured and half dead. The Samaritan finds him, does a bit of triage on the road, and then loads him up on his donkey or his cart and transports the injured man to a safe place, a place he could stay and recover and heal. The Good Samaritan. We know the Samaritans were hated by the Jews. They were hated because they believed in the same God, but the Samaritans' faith practices, they were all wrong. They didn't do it right. The Jewish people looked at them with contempt. The Good Samaritan is the one who turns the story upside down. Because unlike the holy men on the Jericho road, this despised man provides risky mercy to the injured person. And can you imagine the injured guy, maybe a Jewish man, waking up and realizing who it was who saved him, who came to his aid, and not only got him to safety, but stayed and cared for him and provided for his future needs? This guy probably felt relief and a touch of fear because the hero of the story is the least expected, the despised one. I can imagine his cognitive dissonance, the cognitive dissonance of not only the injured man, but of the people hearing the story. If you were in a similar situation of needing help, what kind of person would create that level of discordance in you? I wonder what the Samaritan thought. I tend to think he came to the person's aid out of instinct. It was the right thing to do. God called him to act with mercy, even though the person being helped likely hated him. The reason why is the plot's twist for us. The Samaritan and the injured man are neighbors. They're not strangers. They're neighbors. They share a faith family. They share a God. They share laws and expectations and disdain for the way the other worships. As Krista shared a few weeks ago, one group was exiled to a different country, and one was left behind to fend for themselves. Both did the best they could to survive. They should be united, right? But they act like strangers. They fear each other, but they're neighbors. As I read through the sermon notes for this passage, and I realized this thought, and ew, no. Because strangers are easier, aren't they? It makes for a simpler message. It can be explained. And I can help a stranger more easily than I can help someone I know. Especially my neighbor when my neighbor is homophobic, or a MAGA follower, or someone who hurts those I love. Much like the lawyer, I want to qualify exactly who my neighbor is. Because I want to be able to pick and choose and still look good and admirable because of those choices. What it really boils down to is I want to determine who I show mercy to, who aligns with me and who is against me, who is in and who is out, who do I cancel and who do I uplift, who do I trust and who do I fear. Reverend Jeff Chu in his commentary shared something that helped me understand my own dissonance. Reverend Chu shared that on the night before Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, he preached on the Good Samaritan. Dr. King praised, and this is a quote, praised the Samaritan's dangerous unselfishness, unquote. But privately, Dr. King said, while he, quote, likes and respects the Good Samaritan, I don't want to be the Good Samaritan. I am tired of seeing people battered and bruised and bloody. I want to pave the Jericho road and add streetlights and make it a safe passage for everybody, unquote. What Dr. King said gives me pause. Safe passage for everybody. Dr. King's reading rebukes tidy delineations between us and them. Reverend Chu says that we're all fellow travelers on this road. We are all neighbors. There are no strangers. And that is a hard concept for many, including me. I want to share a personal story about the idea there are no strangers. I decided to take a vacation by myself one summer at a retreat center conference thingy in Estes Park, Colorado. So I flew out there, and I knew no one else that was going. And people thought I was a bit weird. Some thought me I was a bit crazy to spend time with a group of people I had never met before. My response was, I'm going to be with friends I haven't met yet. Now, I know this is my extreme extroversion at work. I fully own that. But it's true. It's true. That's the core of love your neighbor. There are no strangers, only friends we haven't met yet, and God calls us to love them. If I'm honest, I know that many of the people I despise fear the future just like I do. They're worried for their families, just like I am. They're worried about paying for health care, just like I am. They're worried about their jobs, worried about putting food on the table. They're worried about what is happening in our country, worried about the polarity of this country, just like I am. They may approach all of these things differently than I do, may vote differently than I do, may have different solutions than I do. Yet we're both traveling the same Jericho road, full of dangers and robbers and pitfalls. And we all want safe passage. Because the systems are not working for either of us, even if people don't entirely understand all of that. So how do we help our neighbor? There is no easy answer. I don't have a good practical answer either. I wish I had 5 steps to repaving the Jericho road. But what I do know is that Jesus flipped the question on its head. The audience, including us, is waiting for the answer to who is my neighbor. But instead, Jesus describes what a neighbor does. The answer is, everyone is my neighbor, and I love them like I want to be loved. And that changes things for us. Pay attention to what the Samaritan does. He notices and moves closer to the guy in the ditch. Because of this movement to proximity, his empathy and his compassion are triggered. He sees someone deserving of care, and he acts accordingly with love. Proximity, empathy, action, and love. Proximity, empathy, action, and love. The key to this is the proximity, which means nearness in space, time, or relationship, according to the internet. We actually have to get close, which means we actually have to know our neighbors. There are no strangers, only friends we haven't met yet. This community loves people well. Our growing edge will be getting closer to the people we don't agree with and finding out what fears we have in common. What Jericho road are we traveling together? And coming up with the solutions to make that way safer for all of us. What I know is that proximity changes people. Because now you aren't the stranger. You are my neighbor, and we know each other's stories. Empathy kicks in, and we realize we have a common goal, and we take action. We make the way safer for all. What I know is you all are amazing at this. You love people well. You see people, you bandage their wounds, and you give them a chance to heal. I know this because you did this for me. I leave here healed from the wounds I never thought that would go away. Ready for the next leg of my journey. Ready to meet new neighbors. Because you got close. And you changed my life forever. So go and do likewise. Amen.